the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. Jon Feliciano is on the docket. The offensive line. Now, you know I'm excited. I love talking some offensive line, and I like talking about big hosses that like to get after it. And Feliciano is one of those guys that plays hard and works really hard as well. He's a very fun player to watch, and he's an exciting potential player for the 49ers. And I'm telling you something, he's here to start. That's right. Jon Feliciano did not come to the 49ers to be a backup behind Spencer Burford, Jake Brendel, or Aaron Banks for that matter. He came here to be a starter. That's exactly what he wants to be, and I think the 49ers are going to give him the opportunity. Now, we've heard Coach Chris Foerster talk about the fact that it looks like Burford, Brendel, and Banks are definitely at the best situation to be the starters right now. They are ahead of the other guys, but Feliciano is a very confident guy and a very talented individual. Jon Feliciano likes to compete, and he's going to be competing at these spots to potentially get a job, and he plays all the spots you could possibly think of on the interior offensive line. He's logged snaps at left guard, at center, at right guard, and last year started 15 games for the New York Football Giants at center. So he's a very accomplished and well-traveled veteran with stops with the Raiders. He's had stops with the Bills and then with the New York Giants. So he's a guy that understands different systems and is well-traveled and understands how to play a multitude of different ways. I think that Feliciano's a fun guy. He's got plenty of size at 6'4", 365 pounds, which is a big guy. And you know, last year he played 15 games and started 15 games. And there's a lot of times where he's played a ton of snaps, and he played over 900 snaps last year for the New York Giants in those 15 games and only logged 6 penalties, 4 of them being holding calls, which you don't really like the holding and that sort of thing and those numbers going up. But Jon Feliciano has a lot of talent. And he fits what the 49ers like to do on the offensive side of the ball. He's got the ability to get to second level. He does a really good job with his hands, being able to turn his hips, get between the defender and the ball carrier. He does pretty good in the pass and being able to anchor and not allow these bigger defensive tackles to get a nice push and drive him back. He's very accomplished in those areas. But he's here to start. And I think that's something that I'm going to keep harping on, because Feliciano, he told Brad Graham of the SF Niners in an interview that he came here to compete for a starting job. That was his belief. That's his understanding, which means the 49ers brass told him that he was going to get an opportunity to come in here and compete. I'm sure that's something similar they told to Matt Pryor as well. When Feliciano is a very accomplished backup, if he's a backup, but he does have the ability and skill set to start. And you have, yes, Jake Brendel came back, and Brendel's definitely got plenty of ability, and the 49ers made him a priority during free agency and brought him back. I had a episode that's going to be coming out over on Patreon of Slightly Offsides. That's coming out on Thursday, and I want you guys to hear, me and Horst had a little bit of conversation. It's an offensive line conversation, and here's what I give him the idea of Feliciano and Brendel, and here's what Horst had to say about it. Brendel, could he actually get beat out during training camp by Jon Feliciano, who started 15 games for the Giants last year at center?
Jon Feliciano's an interesting pickup. He's a well-traveled guy. He's a veteran. He's played a lot of games, and it makes me wonder if that's not what's on their mind when they brought him in. He was a starter on the Bills. He was a starter on the Raiders. Starter on
the Giants.
From you. So Jon Feliciano is a solid player, and in my opinion, a better player than Brendel. But Jake Brendel has the upside of that he's worked with all the rest of the line. He knows the offense, knows the line coach. But honestly, Feliciano taking that job from him wouldn't be that shocking.
It wouldn't shock Horst at all. And of course, episodes of Slightly Offsides are available over on Patreon. That particular episode where me and Horst is a current offensive line coach. Of course, I was a former offensive line coach. Break down offensive line every which way, go through all the big stories about the 49ers offensive line, which is huge. We also did a big rundown of Colton McKivitz as well. So if you want to check that out, it's available on Patreon. But yeah, Feliciano, people that see Feliciano play understand he's not just a guy they brought in to fill in depth, but he's a guy that has legit ability to be able to start at center. And Horst sees an avenue for Feliciano to be able to overtake Brendel. I think what's going to be interesting is when we get into training camp, exactly how they split the reps for Feliciano. Because Feliciano, like we said, plays right guard, he plays center, he plays left guard. If he's getting more of the center snaps, then he's going to be in a direct competition with a Jake Brendel. If he's splitting snaps between the two guard spots and center, we know they're looking at him as a guy that can go versatile between all three positions. Of course, Nick Zakelj is going to be there as well. So the likelihood was Zakelj will be left guard, Feliciano right guard, with both of them splitting snaps at center would be how I would think Chris Foerster would lay this thing out. But when we get to training camp is when we're really going to find out how these splits happen between the different reps. But Feliciano is going to be able to understand his technique. The question is, how quick will he pick up this offense? One thing that made Jake Brendel a very appealing option for Chris Foerster was the fact not only has Foerster known him since he was in Miami with him, but also he had sat a year behind Alex Mack and really been able to learn this offense. And even then, he struggled at times, making some bad calls, not shifting the line like he should have. Those things are very important. With Feliciano being in a few different organizations and a few different schemes, I look for him to be able to pick up the line calls pretty quickly. But knowing for sure you're going to be able to do it is hard. Alex Mack would even get it wrong sometimes. Kyle's system's very complex, and the run game switches from week to week. You have to understand what your responsibilities are, and when you're a center and you're calling out line protections, you have to understand what everyone else's job responsibilities are as well, and then call it out. There are people that are depending on you to make sure you make the right call. You have to be able to read and see which linebackers are coming on blitz or which guys are potentially going to overload one side. You have to be able to stay home and pick up the stunts. It's a very complicated job. Now, Feliciano did it at a pretty high level with the Giants. Was he, a all-pro caliber player? No, but he was very sufficient. He's also good at getting to second level and with pulling. And we know those are things the 49ers really need within their offense, especially on the offensive line. Feliciano has the ability to get some drive and get some push on nose tackles, which is something that Jake Brendel sometimes struggles with. He also is able to hold blocks at the second level a little bit better than Brendel. Where Brendel has advantages are the fact he understands the 49ers system and he's more athletic than Feliciano. With that increase in athleticism comes some deficiencies as far as being able to anchor in the pass game and then being able to maintain blocks at the second level, which Feliciano does pretty well. The question with Feliciano is how good is he going to be able to get to the second level? Brendel can get there at a rapid pace. Can Feliciano pull that off? I think that's going to be interesting. But I think this is a real battle. I think just because Jake Brendel signed that contract doesn't mean Feliciano's not coming for that job. I think the understanding that he's going to have the potential opportunity to do so makes sense for Jon Feliciano and the 49ers. Put him out there. Let him compete. What's the worst thing that happens? He outplays Jake Brendel and you improve at the position? No big deal. If Jake Brendel wins the job, good, but he got pushed to another level. Now you have a very capable backup in Feliciano that, hey, if Zakel's not ready to back up Aaron Banks and Banks goes down, boom, plug in Feliciano, you're feeling comfortable. Oh, Spencer Burford, he's not ready to take on full amount of 900-plus snaps playing for the 49ers. We need him in a little bit more of a rotation like he did in 2022 with Daniel Brunskill. No problem. Feliciano can handle that. Oh, we need a little bit of intricacies as far as blocking, understanding, communication with Colt McKivitz. No problem. Feliciano's there. The veteran leadership that the 49ers have at the potential backup positions is outstanding. But I don't think that's why Feliciano's here. Maybe the 49ers envision him as a backup offensive lineman for their team. That's not how Feliciano sees it. He's going to go in there every single minute to prove it. And he's proven it on a multitude of teams. And when he's out there, he's usually staying healthy and he's playing at a high level. I'm excited about him coming to this team because it could have been a very different scene if the 49ers would have decided just to let Daniel Brunskill walk and only go with the young players. I think Feliciano could be a Dan Brunskill equivalent, which means he's got versatility to play all over the field. This is good news for the San Francisco 49ers, and Jon Feliciano was a great signing. But he's not here just to be a backup, and in training camp, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So when you are watching training, or if you're out at training camp watching, or you're watching preseason 49ers football, I want you to keep an eye on 55. Is he playing right guard? Is he getting snaps? How's he doing when he's out there? Those things are all going to be important. Listen to the reports that come out of training camp about the amount of reps that they're taking. If Jake Brendel still takes the abundance of the snaps, then you're going to know they're leaning towards Brendel. But if you start getting reports that Feliciano's getting more and more reps at the center position, it just might be time to pay attention to Feliciano potentially doing like Horst said and taking Jake Brendel's spot. Brendel, of course, has Forster on his side, and it's going to take a lot to do it. But when you're a meritocracy, the best player plays. It is smart for a guy like Chris Forster to put out the best possible offensive line. He is, however, the run game coordinator, right? He's going to want a guy that can do it at the best level. The 49ers made a very shrewd move bringing in Feliciano, and it could pay dividends. It'll pay dividends at least in the backup game, but could even pay dividends as a starting offensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, on the push for 4K. And Slightly Offsides that you can see right here is available over on Patreon with the full version of me and Horst going through the offensive line. It's really good. Episodes of Ant Hill where we're breaking down position by position on offense and ranking the NFC West teams position by position. It's really fun. More episodes next week for Slightly Offsides and the Ant Hill Show, and all that's available on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, stay safe, and remember the right way is always the 49ers way.